say reject Finance Bill 2024, we should not lose that historical context, that the grievances are not new, that this culture of impunity that Ruto now exemplifies, the refusal to listen to the people, the runaway corruption, the plunder that does not know limits. When you express yourself on the street, at home, wherever, or when you're using spaces like this, you are not subjected to abductions. You are not subjected to threats like I've been receiving every day telling me that they are going to, quote unquote, deport me back to Canada, or they are coming for me, or that Ruto did me a favor by simply respecting court orders and the Constitution to allow me to return to my country of birth. This is, in a nutshell, what is happening today. It has accumulated for many decades. Between 2017 and 2022, if many people recall, Uhuru Kenyatta did the same thing. He turned his guns on the people. He was abducting Kenyans. Many of them, their bodies were found in River Yala. Many of them disappeared up to today. And we know people were tortured. Personally, my house was bombed. They abducted me just the same way they've been abducting people at night when I was sleeping. Vanished with me, tortured me, and forced me out of the country. This is the context. So when the Gen Zs come onto the streets and say, reject Finance Bill 2024, we should not lose that historical context, that the grievances are not new, that this culture of impunity that Ruto now exemplifies, the refusal to listen to the people, the runaway corruption, the plunder that does not know limits, the arrogance that you see when D posts on X and when Farouk and Sudi go to Harambes every week and purport to donate tens of millions of public money that they have stolen. Farouk Kibet does not hold any public office, but can donate on every weekend Harambee 10 million shillings. Sudi's salary is 1 million shillings, but he can donate 20 million every weekend. These are public money. When Kenyans see Ruto walking around with a watch worth 30 million shillings, many watches, and shoes of 2 million, and takes a private jet to the US that is purportedly worth 200 million, does not account for any of this. When Ruto cries that Uhuru Kenyatta left an empty coffers at Treasury, but instead of going for the people that looted the Treasury and left the coffers empty so that they can pay the so-called debts that Kenyans did not consent to them taking, he then turns around and overtaxes Kenyans. The same Kenyans that are unemployed, the same Kenyans who cannot afford 3 meals a day, the same Kenyans that is brutalizing. This is the trigger. Finance Bill 2024, which is an IMF World Bank project, was simply a trigger based on the historical grievances that Kenyans have had for all this time. It was also precipitated by the fact that even though the Constitution ended, at least legally, the imperial presidency, the president has refused to recognize the constitutional limits. For instance, he's using the power of the presidency that is limited in the Constitution to emasculate parliament, and has emasculated parliament completely through bribery, through CDF, which the courts have declared illegal, through threats like that of Kibet Farouk, through kidnappings or abductions, and through bribery. He has also emasculated the judiciary, again, through the same mechanisms. So the legislative arm of government and the judicial arm of government have been turned into extensions of State House. The executive is now engaged in impunity. They do things without restraint. The victims of injustices, the victims of Kenyans who have been abducted, Kenyans who have been tortured, Kenyans who have been murdered or extrajudicially killed, have not received justice. Ruto has not even spent 1 minute expressing his condolences. So, in other words, we have had unbridled arrogance of public officers, including the president, that has exploded into the protests. People, I believe about 65% of Kenya's population is unemployed. These people are on the street because, number one, they don't even have anything to do. They don't have anything to do because the state has failed. The government has failed to take care of them. Ruto was saying the other day that he wants to export manual laborers to Germany and other places. And many of us are saying, no, the reasons Kenyans elected you is to create employment in Kenya so that these young people, these unemployed, can contribute to the development of the country in Kenya, not going outside to become slaves and to be mistreated in Saudi Arabia and many other places. So, what is the way forward? From what we have seen in the last 1.5 weeks, William Ruto is not interested in accepting the fact that the people have rejected what he has been doing for the last 2 years. Why do I say that? Number one, the abductions are continuing. Today, you saw that they abducted the former MP from his own region, Mr. Alfred Keter, in broad daylight, in front of his children and wife, coming from a church. So that's not a contrite and reasonable leader. That's not a democratic leader. That's not a leader who is listening. Because what is it that Keter has been doing? Keter has been using his X space to challenge Ruto, to question him, to interrogate him, to express his opinions pursuant to the Constitution. The Bill of Rights gives him that, give him those rights. But Ruto does not respond reasonably. If Keter had done anything wrong, if Keter had committed any crime, there is a way to summon someone to the DCI or to arrest them humanely, in a dignified way, legally, by 2 policemen appearing at home and telling him that he's under arrest. I don't think that he would resist. But here he's being abducted on the streets, just like many Kenyans have been abducted and disappeared. Number 2, he unilaterally purported to have withdrawn, quote unquote. I use quote unquote because the bill has not been withdrawn. He purports that he withdrew Finance Bill 2024 and that he sent it back to the House. The law does not allow him to do that. The law simply allows him to reject the bill with a memo back to the House on what it is that he thinks should be amended or not amended. But he cannot unilaterally withdraw the entire bill. He's not allowed to do that by law, so he's just claiming that he did that. But why did he wait until too late? Some of us, I, for example, since 2023, I told him to withdraw Finance Bill 2023. It's a matter of public record. I also told him to withdraw Finance Bill 2024 before it was presented to the House, before it was debated, before it was passed. Kenyans demanded, even on the day of rage, on Thursday, when a few gallant youth stormed Parliament, they wanted Parliament not to preside over the passage of the bill. Ruto refused. Why did it take so many lives lost for him to purport, to reject, to sign the bill into law? And more importantly, Ruto, 2 days ago, signed the Appropriation Bill 2024 that authorizes him to spend billions, hundreds of billions of public money. The question is, what does Ruto care about? The money that he's supposed to spend and loot, or the taxes? Because he's still taxing under the Finance Bill 2023 anyway. The taxes as of today are excessive anyway. They are punitive anyway. And those taxes are continuing anyway. If you go anywhere else in Kenya today, you will be taxed. So nobody is saying